right, hey there, fiber friends. It's Sarah. I've got another Yarn Lab spinning video for you, and I want to start off by talking about the fiber and the plan. So I've only to this point done one sweater spin. I did it from fleece that I washed and dyed and prepped and spun myself, and the sweater, quite honestly, I haven't worn it because it's a bit too small. So one day I'll probably rip that out and reknit the yarn into a sweater that I can enjoy. But this fiber here, I purchased with the plan of doing a sweater spin. I purchased it probably, I think pre-COVID, possibly. And it is Fluffy Top by Cloud9 Fiberworks. I don't know how well you can see that in the camera there. And it is 100% superwash merino wool. I've got 4 put-ups of it. They're 110 grams each. And this roving is dyed in sort of a mottled black and a wine color with some splashes of the undyed white merino showing through. So I had bought 4 of these, intending them for a sweater spin. I probably should have purchased 5. I don't recall at the time if there were 5 available. The colorway I should say is called Morticia, and that was Cloud9 Fiberworks. So I have 4. If I spun really fine, 4 should be fine for like a fingering weight sort of simple sweater for me. But given how I'm feeling with cancer, I don't really care to spin super fine. So I think what I want to aim for is like a DK weight woolen spun yarn, which means I need to add fiber to this. I'm not mad about that plan because also I don't really want to have any pooling or splotching of color in my finished sweater. Call me boring, but this amount of variation in my fiber will produce, if I spun it direct from the roving, large sections of dark and light that would be visible in the knitted garment. So either way, I was considering running this fiber through my drum carder, maybe twice, in order to better blend the fiber and produce bats that would make a woolen style spun yarn a little bit easier to achieve. But since I'm going to do that anyways and I need to add more fiber to this, I went down through my stash and I pulled up these 2 tangles of fiber. So I've got some black roving. This is just commercially dyed Corriedale, I believe. So I've got probably, I'd say 70 or so grams of this black, and that will blend very nicely with this. And then this is only half of what I have here, but I've got probably close to 200 grams of this guy, which I believe is like a Falkland merino woolen roving, and this is dyed and then carded actually, so the variation in here comes from fiber that was dyed prior to the carding process. But I think that this sort of purple color matches close enough some of the hits of purple inside this fiber, and so if I were to go for 50% this fiber, 25% adding in the black, or maybe a little bit less than that, and then 25% adding in this purple, run it through my drum carder a couple times, I think I will have bats that I'm super pleased with. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that right away. Based on how much my drum carder can fit, which is like comfortably a 50 gram bat, probably push a 75 gram bat, I think I will divide each one of these into thirds and then incorporate a measured portion of the black and the purple, run it through the drum carder a couple times, and we'll see what we get. Okay, I just ran one set through for proof of concept. Actually, I fit more on my drum carder than I thought, so I've gotten about 90 grams of fiber here. It is about 56 grams of the original braid, and then like 13 is what I measured out of the black, and 20-ish of the purple. And what I did was I loaded half of the portion of the braid onto my drum carder, then all the black, all the purple, and the other half of that braid. And then I pulled that bat off, split it into 5 strips, and loaded it on a second time. And this is the final result. And you can see that it is a much more even blend. So blending like this does sort of gray your colors out, or mute them, if you will, but I think I'm going to be super happy with the result of this blend. You can see there's tons of air in this bat compared to how densely compacted the braid was, and I'm not sure how well it will come across, but the fibers are a lot more disorganized in this carded bat prep than they were in that merino wool sort of roving top, what have you, over here. So I'm really happy with this. I'm just going to roll my bat up, and I'm going to go ahead and make up some more of these so that I have hopefully enough wool to spin up for my sweater spin. All right, so you can probably hear my kids in the basement playing / cleaning, but I'm going to card up the last of the bats for this sweater spin. So I've got that Cloud9 Fiberworks 100% superwash merino in the colorway Morticia. I've got, I think it was about 13 grams of the black Corriedale and 22 grams of this purple Falkland merino. And this was half of a braid. So I had 4 braids and I just divided each in half. So, got my drum carder here. And first, I'm just going to, layer on about 2/3 of the length of this evenly as a base layer. And I don't really love feeding fiber in through the sort of liquor here. I find that too much gets caught up here. So I predominantly make my bats by layering from the top. And I'm not worrying about color placement. I'm just going back and forth across the bat, or across the drum, to try and have even application of the fiber, regardless of the color. The other thing, by holding the fiber pretty firm, and especially with these tops that are quite dense, it really packs in deep into the teeth. Okay, so I probably put more than I meant to on, but there's my base layer. Now I'm going to put the black Corriedale. And now I'm just trying to evenly cover my base layer by working back and forth across the drum. And now this Falkland merino, and you can see this roving is carded, and it's not like a pin drafted or a combed roving. You can really see the difference between the parallel fibers here and the crisscrossy fibers here. The other thing is this is quite dense, whereas this is really airy. So this one can be a little bit trickier to lay down. You need to kind of have your thumb to guide it on to the drum, otherwise it's going to just break over and over again. And when you do this, you obviously don't want to scratch the back of your hand on the teeth. And you can see, or you might not be able to see, but I just tuck this loose end up under my armpit so it doesn't get caught down here. And loading it on in this way does actually sort of align these fibers a bit more. It's almost like the teeth of the drum comb them a little bit more parallel. But you'll still get sort of little lumps and stuff. so I've got that on. Now I'm just going to put the rest of this braid on. Like I said, probably should have left a little bit more for the top coat. Okay, so bat is on, and I'm going to run this through a second time, so I need to pull it off. Just using a thick metal crochet hook. This was a secondhand drum carder and didn't come with the metal tool for pulling bats off. You could use anything. You want something metal because it's, you know, surprising how much force you need to sort of tear through the fiber here. But yeah, and then that doesn't get quite to the surface, so I've got a wooden DPN here. So I've split it, use my wooden DPN to sort of get really into that groove and make sure I'm not leaving any fiber behind in the teeth. And I find to get it started, you often need to sort of fish some more fiber out. But once you get it started, you usually can just sort of grab the bat, crank your opposite direction while you're pulling down across the back of the drum carder, and it'll just come right out of the teeth. Like so. Oh, left a little chunk behind. Just throw that right on. This is the bottom of this bat. Oops. Yeah, lay it on the drum carder so it can all get stuck. There's the top. You could go ahead and spin this, but I want to distribute my colors more evenly than this in my final yard. So I'm going to strip this into 5 strips. Literally just grab and pull, grab and pull, grab and pull. There we go. Because you can see that inside that bat, we've got the base layer, we've got the purple layer and the black layer, and you're going to get big chunks of this purple, big chunks of this white here. So I'm going to load this on. And now, if this was my bat, when it came off, this was the bottom, this was the top. And if I load it on this way, it's going to keep these layers together. So I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so that, you know, this way is the top, this is the bottom. So I've got the fiber rotated, and that's going to distribute these colors a bit more. And again, I'm not worrying about colors. I'm just going to go back and forth across my drum and try and get this fiber on evenly. So there's one. Again, we're going to rotate 90 degrees and load it on. That bat is finished now. So again, I'm just using my big ol', this is a K crochet hook, to split my bat open along the seam on my drum carder. And knitting needle just to grab the rest and collect it off of the carder. So here is my finished bat, and you can we still got some chunks of, you know, there's a little chunk of black, a little chunk of white, but the amount of fiber in this chunk relative to what was in those braids, or even relative to what kind of blotch of white I would have got first pass through, is way smaller. So this will be more like a blip, and hopefully not something that would pool or puddle in the knitted garment. You could run through again. The more times you run it through, the more you're going to distribute the colors in this fiber, and the more you're going to muddy down the individual colors into sort of an optical blend. In this case, it'd be sort of like a purpley gray. So twice is plenty for me. And I'm going to show you what my next step to create a harmonious blended color for this sweater spin will be in just a second. Okay, so here is that bat that I just made. Here is my basket of bats. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to actually strip each of these bats into 5 or 6 strips and bundle them up. And then sort of mix them around in that basket. So the reason for that is, there's a really good example. So I don't know how easy or hard it will be to see, but this bat here is a bit more purple. This bat here is maybe a bit more black. The point is, even with having 4 braids of the same dye lot and the same colorway of that fiber, some of the braids appeared to be more white and others more black. Like, this is a really good example actually. See how much white is in this one and how little there is really in this one? So if this bat by itself became a yarn, it would be noticeable when I switched from skein to skein. But if I strip all of these bats down, since I would strip them before spinning them anyways, I don't often spin directly from a whole bat. So if I strip all these bats down and then toss them into the basket so that I'm pulling from them randomly, that will help to further blend up the fiber across the braids and across the bats. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to take one of my bats here, open it out so you can see how beautiful it is and how much air. Putting it through the second time really opens the fiber up, I find, quite a bit. And then I'm going to just pull a strip, and then all I do is I wrap it around a hand and make a little ball like that, and I'll toss it in my basket. Now I want to do this randomly, so I'll pull a strip from multiple bats, toss them in the basket, and then work my way through again. And it'll take a little bit of time, but it will be worth it. Because like you can see, this strip here has a lot of white in it. So just want to mix things up as much as I possibly can in order to have an overall knit sweater that looks harmonious, looks like the same yarn from top to bottom. Great. So I've got my big old basket here full of those strips that I rolled up, and there were 8 bats. They were about 90 grams each, so there is plenty of wool fiber for this sweater spin. I'm going to spin it 3-ply, so I'll spin it onto bobbins and then ply off those bobbins to create a 3-ply yarn. I want to spin the singles fine but airy, and it'll be sort of a semi-woolen situation that should make a lovely 3-ply finished yarn, hopefully in a DK range that will give me a ton of options for the sweater that I will determine, the sweater that I'm going to have to knit with this project. So ready to go for day 1 of Tour de Fleece, which for me is tomorrow, which is also my first day of my next round of chemo. So hopefully having my spinning wheel, and I've brought it up here into our bedroom so that I will be maximally motivated to spin at least a little bit on each day of the tour. I'm going to document that sort of hopefully vlog style along with my progression through round 4 of my chemotherapy for breast cancer. So that's this project, prepping the fiber, for a sweater spin to get a harmonious blended color to create a yarn that I will be most happy with in a finished garment. That's all I've got for now. Happy spinning!